Good morning, neighbor. This is my third day coming out here to Blacktail Plateau. It's quickly becoming one of my favorite spots out here at Yellowstone. It's relatively secluded just compared to the rest of the park. It's a back road. It's the only back road that makes a loop that I know about. It's still a little busy, but it's more secluded. Behind me, this is Mount Everts. And I think that it was, when I checked the map, I think it was about 7,800 feet. There's a little bit of snow on the top remaining, and just along the mountain line, there's still some snow. Today is June 30th. It's a Monday, and my weekend has ended. I've got work later today. And that work is going to go into the night. So I'll probably take a little nap before that. I woke up I think around 4:30 or 5 this morning, and it was just before the sun started to rise. So I decided to come out here and see the park in the morning light. I've seen mostly the sunsets. Well, I guess I see more sunsets than I do sunrises. So, it's a perfect opportunity to get out of bed, take a shower. My backpack was already packed up. Today I'm drinking a black rose tea. there are little rose petals in the tea. It's one of the lighter black teas that I have. Um, it's not as like deep, I guess. Um, there's like an iron oxidized flavor to black teas that is sort of stereotypical of black teas, and this black rose tea, it has very little. It, you don't have that. Yeah, there's not much oxidized flavor to it. Um, yeah, got my teacup. It is a chilly morning here in Yellowstone. It's in the upper 40s right now. I saw a bear 2 days ago, a black bear, and it was over by the petrified, the petrified um, tree trail. Um, it was nearer to the road. I was in my car when I saw it, um, so it was really cool to get to see like just this bear up close. It was kind of mangy. It looked like it had been laying down or something. And it was just making its way through the meadow. I wanted to talk about childhood. And I think it's a tough subject for all of us. If there is a person out there who has had a good childhood, then I want to meet them. I want to hear about their life. I want to hear how things were all perfect and right, and I want to hear that. In fact, I've probably heard that just from fantasies. Um, the old fairy tale phrase goes, and they lived happily ever after. And that's an interesting phrase. One of the quotes that comes to mind when I think about relationships and family and community is love covers over a multitude of wrongs. And I've always been caught up in this tension of at what point does our covering up of wrongs At what point does our covering up of wrongs not make sense anymore? It would seem to me that the norm is that we don't have any choice but to live with the wrongs that are passed down to us. And even more frustrating, that means that we're probably passing down wrongs to the next generation without even realizing it. This isn't something that I like talking about, because I was raised in a family that didn't want to tell the truth and didn't want to face up to reality. There were a lot of backhanded comments that came from my mother, and then there were also there was a negligence that or an aloofness that I picked up from my father. And one of the first things that I think of when I think of families, family, is that great big 10 commandment, or that great big commandment from the Hebrew Scriptures, which says, honor your father and mother. Honor thy father and mother. And it's also in the New Testament. And I look to the Scriptures for a lot of things, and I base a lot of my life upon the Scriptures. So I find that phrase to be a good phrase, an honorable one. Honor thy father and mother. My understanding of honor thy father and mother is that you shouldn't speak poorly of your family. or you shouldn't speak poorly of your mom and dad. My understanding of that commandment is that your mom and dad brought you into this world, and you should honor them for that. They did a lot to get you here. They they got you to a certain point in life. They fed you, they clothed you, they housed you. So I'm not really sure how to think of my parents sometimes. Because there was a lot of wrong done. What about honoring the children? What about when a parent dishonors their child? Where's that commandment? When thinking about childhood, I I think of it in a lot of different ways. Um, but I think about the family that we're born into, and I think about the surrounding culture or the surrounding community that we're born into. So sometimes um, it's hard for me to separate the two because they're they're interwoven. So there's a lot of hardship and struggle that crosses over between the parents that are living in that culture and the kids that are being raised by those parents and the kids that are born into that culture. It's in some ways inseparable, in some ways just yeah. It's hard because I can say a lot of things. but it feels like they mean different things to so many people. Whenever I bring up this subject with people, I I get a lot of I get a lot of responses. I think some part of me might be looking for a little bit of camaraderie or a little solidarity in talking about the hurt that we experience in childhood, the hurt that I've experienced in childhood. There's another part of it which is sort of a you and me both type of situation. Like, yeah, yeah, we all know. Like, we've all been hurt. Like, yeah, forget about it. Just let it go to the wind. Just forget about it. And I guess another response that I've been looking for um, is let's talk about that. I've been looking for um, someone whom I can rest my head upon their shoulder, and the world the world hasn't offered me that. I'm still struggling to figure it out and figure out whether the world is a good place or a bad. At least the culture that we live in is often stone-faced. There might be love underneath the surface. Or there might be fear. don't know what is in the hearts of others, but I know enough of my heart to know that there's probably something similar going on, even in all of our differences. I'd like to believe that we're all more alike than we are different. And it's the job of good, healthy relationships, good, healthy people to form good, healthy relationships. When I think about my mom, I think about how I think both of my parents, in many ways, they're quiet souls. I think about my mom quietly sitting at her desk, trying to log on to the internet, America Online, the dial-up tone in the background, or laying on her bed, overwhelmed, watching TV, or playing poker on her iPad. I think about her working on a little craft, or fixing something, gluing something together. My grandma, she used to paint. She passed away 18 years ago. My grandma on my mom's side. And then I think of my dad. My dad is a musician, and he plays and sings the blues. He still does. He's an amazing musician. plays in a lot of Airbnb, jazz, and blues bands. He's had a few bands of his own. He's played in like 4-piece bands, and like I think the largest one that I've seen him play in was like 10 group members, and it was just really amazing to see. I remember going on gigs with him. And then I would occasionally play the drums, and then I'd get a free coffee for playing in the band. I think that's probably where my love for coffee comes from. I really liked the iced frappuccino mocha things that some of the places would serve. I'm not entirely sure what it was that I got as a kid, but to this day, I still I drink mochas. I've never been the biggest fan of plain coffee, but I like a frappuccino and a mocha. Love covers up a multitude of wrongs, and honor covers up a multitude of wrongs. And we as people are called to honor each other. At least I feel called to honor every single person in my life and to love them. I'm stuck asking the question of who are we as people? Are we good or are we bad? And my holy scriptures, they tell me that we were made and it was very good, and that we fell. And ever since then, we've been fallen and exiled. And so it's not that we aren't good anymore. It's that we're fallen. It's that we're in a state of lostness, of 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 something that isn't good. And yet that blessing and that promise still remains. God made us. The Creator made us. And it was very good. So I struggle with how much of this is something that came from my parents and how much of this is just the brokenness that we're all born into. I don't want to be unkind to someone only to be treated unkindly in the same way by them. I was treated unkindly by my parents, by my mom and dad. I don't know how to deal with that. The dynamics of parenting are in some ways potentially deeply unfair. Um, I think about, I don't know if my parents specifically said this, but it is a thing in our culture, and so we pick up on it. The phrase, I brought you into this world, and I can take you out. What is being said in that phrase? Are you threatening to kill me? That's, I mean, either that's the most silly, dumb phrase a parent can say, or one of the most menacing and unjust, cruel things a parent can say. Don't, like, ooh, that's a threat. Maybe it's a blind threat. Maybe it's a threat without teeth, but that's a threat. And then there's something that my mom says, um, still to this day. And I don't know what she means by it. But she says that you only get one family. You only get like you only get this. You don't get any other. And that's true in one sense. And I think that what she means by saying that is that be grateful for what you have. But in another sense, it's it's another one of those threats. Um, Family is much bigger, or it can be much bigger than the family that you're born into. The people around me, the people that I meet every day, we may not know each other very well, um, and our conversations may just be passing conversations, but we're all a part of the human family. I don't know. I don't want that to seem shallow, and I feel like it. I mean, it definitely can be a shallow thing, because if there is no deeper relationship in any of that, then um, it's just a shallow phrase. But um, I remember being called, and I'm still called to this day, ungrateful. And I've been called worse by my mom and one of my brothers. And that's not true. I guess going back to that happily ever after fantasy, and they lived happily ever after. Um, I get the sense or I feel often that I'm on the outside looking in, and when I look into the different friendships around me, when I've spent time with other families and had dinner, had lunch with just all the different people of my life, I see the way that the relationships work, and I understand that, oh, it didn't work that way in my life growing up. Was there something unhealthy? Was there something wrong with my family? Um, and having lived enough life, I can say yes. Um, and I guess that's not to say that there isn't unhealthiness in other families. Um, it's just I can't see that. Another thing that my mom would often say and still says, okay. Another thing that my mom often says is that it's something along the lines of, oh, other people, they don't show their garbage, or other people, they don't, they put their best foot forward, they put their best face on when they go out into public. They, like, you just don't see what other people, like, yada, yada, yada. And it's an excuse that my mom makes for not wanting to change her behavior. It's an excuse that my mom makes when I point something out. And it's not something that she likes. She doesn't want to hear it. And at this point, I guess I've learned that neither of my parents want to hear it. Or at least they've hurt our relationship. So badly, to the point where I've just had to walk away. Because they think that I'm the problem. And they take every opportunity, every little bit of weakness, or every little bit of, I don't know, to say you're ungrateful, or you need to be happy with what you have, or you just don't understand. I'm old enough to understand that those are just excuses for bad behavior. I'm thinking of a friend who might be watching. And I want to say this next part to him. Him and his wife are about to have a kid. You've been given a wonderful opportunity to bring a new life into this world. And life is a gift. Life is a gift. Cherish that gift and nurture that gift. God has given you that gift. And then also, be bold and allow that gift to be shared with the world. I've never been a parent. And if I'm lucky, well, I hope to be a parent someday. Another thing that my mom would often say is, you'll understand someday when you have kids. And I probably will. But I hope to do better. That's all I can hope for, I guess. I'm probably saying all the cliche things right now. But they're not cliche. They're only cliche if we make them cliche. And they're only hateful if we make them hateful. And so there's a spirit by which we must walk, and this spirit is love. If we are to be healthy and whole people, we must turn from the old ways and find new and better ways to live. And if something's not working, you throw it out. If the way that I'm living isn't working, I need to find a new way. So, friend, who I hope is watching. You've been given a gift. And you've been given a relationship, or you are being given a relationship. There's a delicate relationship that you have with your child that is one of authority and power and strength. Not because power is inherently good, not because authority is something that we must take upon ourselves, but because in that relationship, the parent is stronger than the child. The child is weaker than the parent. And in that relationship, you have the potential to build that person up, that that that, that little baby up. You have the opportunity to you have the opportunity to build them up or tear them down. Are you going to build them up? Or are you going to tear them down? Are you going to wound them? Or are you going to bind up their wounds? Are you going to be a safe harbor for them? Or are they going to want to leave that harbor and find something better? Family may be the only thing that you may only get one family. But there are multitudes of people out there with the possibility of healthy, whole, good relationship. So make sure that the family that you're giving your child is worth keeping. Make sure that the family that you're giving your child is a safe harbor in this hard world, in this lonely world. So it's about, I guess it's a it's a 8:10 p.m. No. So it's 8:10 a.m. I'm gonna spend the rest of the day just probably going through Yellowstone, seeing different things. Um, I've got work later today at 6 p.m. I can hear an airplane off in the distance this way. Oh, I actually can see it. It's a little motor plane, or a propeller. I saw one a little earlier when just before starting this video. Um, I might have more to say on this subject later down the line. I want to thank you for listening, whoever you are, and wherever you're at, whether you're just having the time of your life, just the greatest of seasons in life, or whether you're in a hard place. I hope this meets you well. I hope that this is something that helps, or it's just something to chew on. Thank you for being here. Remember that you are a gift to this world.